Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something I think a lot of us feel deep down, but maybe can't quite put our finger on. It's that connection between how we earn our money and how we feel inside. I mean, why is it that the very work we do to build a good life so often just gets in the way of actually living one?
It's really the great paradox of our time, isn't it? We chase success thinking it'll bring us peace, but somehow we just end up with more stress. So why does that happen? And, more importantly, is there a different way to do things? Well, this explainer is going to get right to the heart of that very question.
All right, so our journey to connect wealth and peace, it actually starts with a really simple but incredibly powerful distinction. It's this idea that ancient wisdom says basically governs every single choice we make, the difference between what feels good and what is good for us.
So this wisdom gives us two key ideas. First, you've got sukha. Think of it as that flash of enjoyment, right? The momentary satisfaction that feels awesome right now. But then there's hita. This is true, lasting welfare. It's what's genuinely good for us in the long run. And honestly, so much of life happens in that constant tug of war between our desire for sukha and our need for hita.
Here's the perfect way to think about it. Picture someone with really bad pneumonia. A big scoop of ice cream? That offers a moment of pure, delicious pleasure. That's sukha. But it's only going to make the illness worse. Avoiding it, even though it's tough in the moment, is what leads to health and recovery. That's hita. True wisdom, then, is all about learning to choose our long-term welfare over that short-term pleasure.
Okay, so ice cream, pneumonia, long-term welfare. What on earth does this have to do with our jobs? Well, it turns out everything. According to this philosophy, the very first step on any real path to inner peace, it begins with purifying the source of your income. And there's actually a name for this foundational stage, Margosarita, or the seeker's path. The logic behind it is super simple. You just can't build a peaceful mind on a chaotic or an unjust foundation. Before you can do any of that deep inner work, you've got to get your outer life in order. And that starts with the very way you earn your living.
And this leads us to a really powerful ancient saying, as the food, so the mind. The logic is simple, but it's also pretty profound. See, the money we earn buys the food we eat. So, if that money is earned through unjust or unethical means, the food itself is considered impure, and that impure food, in turn, directly disturbs the peace and stability of our mind.
And hey, this isn't just a theory. There's a classic story about a man named Punya Shravak. His daily meditation was always a model of deep peace, but one day, nothing. His mind was just restless, agitated. He was totally confused, so he investigated every single detail of his day. And you know what he found? His meal had been cooked using a few fuel cakes his wife had unknowingly borrowed from a neighbor. A tiny, unintentional injustice was enough to completely shatter his inner peace. That's how direct the connection is. So, if a single borrowed fuel cake can cause that much of a disturbance, how in the world are we supposed to build an entire livelihood that actually supports our peace? Well, the answer lies in this really powerful four-part framework for ethical earning, known as the Four Purities.
This framework looks at our work from four different angles. First, there's dravya, the what, the nature of the work itself. Then, kshetra, the where, our work environment. Third is kal, the when, the timing of our work. And finally, there's bhava, the how, the intention behind it all. Let's break each of these down.
So first up is dravya, the purity of the profession. Now, traditionally, there's a kind of hierarchy. Farming is seen as the best because it connects you directly to the natural world and is thought to foster a gentle spirit. Business is in the middle, and it's valued because of the independence it gives you. And then at the bottom is a salaried job. Now, I know what you're thinking. That is a pretty provocative statement. A job means slavery. But the idea here isn't to devalue having a job. It's really about placing the highest possible premium on freedom. From this perspective, a job creates dependency on a boss, on a schedule, on corporate demands. And that dependency can seriously limit the time and energy you have for spiritual practice or community service. The core idea is that real wealth is the freedom to live by your own values, and anything that restricts that freedom is, well, a kind of bondage.
All right, so it's not just about the type of work you do. This framework says we have to purify the entire context around it. This means looking really closely at where you work, when you work, and maybe most importantly, the intention you bring to it every single day.
The second purity, kshetra, is all about place. The big insight here is that your environment is never neutral. It's either helping you or it's hindering you. A community that's spiritually fragmented, kind of cold, can just drain your energy. But one that's vibrant and unified, well, that can act as a constant source of support and inspiration. And there's this incredible story about a man named Bayalal Baihem that just hits this point home. He was a young, thriving businessman, but after a retreat, he had this realization that his town just couldn't provide the spiritual nourishment his family needed. So he did the unthinkable. He completely abandoned his successful business and moved his family to Ahmedabad, a city with a strong spiritual community. He even took a simple job so he would have more time for learning and practice. He literally chose spiritual wealth over material wealth by changing his place.
Third is kal, the purity of time. This is all about recognizing that not all of our time should be for making money. On holy days and festivals, which are known as parva, the priority should shift from business to spiritual practice. You know, in the past, it was totally common for shops to just close on these sacred days. It's a discipline of stepping back from commerce to focus on what truly matters.
And finally, and this is maybe the most important one, we have bhava, the purity of your intention. This is the absolute heart of an ethical livelihood. It's not just about following some rules, it's about your inner state. It means treating your employees with kindness, supporting them when they're in need, and just being fair in all your dealings. Ultimately, Baba teaches that how you make your money matters just as much as what you do to make it.
And you know, nothing captures this ideal better than the language they used. The ancient term for an employee wasn't worker, but Kaudumbya Parush, which translates to a man of the family. Just that one phrase completely reframes the entire relationship, from a simple transaction to one of mutual care and responsibility. It's beautiful.
So after all this work, purifying what you do, where you do it, when and how you do it, we have to ask the big question, what's the real return on this investment? Because it's not just about feeling a little better about your job, the payoff is something much, much deeper.
This right here is the ultimate payoff. The real profit from a just livelihood isn't more money in the bank. It's a mind that is stable enough for peace. It's a life that's free from that quiet, nagging anxiety that injustice always creates. It is the ability to find genuine, lasting happiness. That hita that we talked about at the very beginning. So as we wrap this up, here's a thought to take with you. Take a look at your own work, the what, the where, the when, and the how, and ask yourself this one simple question. Is your livelihood just making you a living, or is it truly building you a life? The answer to that? Well, it might just change everything.